And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. If you download that, it's free. We don't charge you one penny. Download it. You can watch and listen to our program daily. You can always go back and check us out. By the way, high school football is starting tomorrow. Week 0 is what they call it. We have a link on our app directly to the high school football scoreboard. So you could be wherever you want to be, and you're going, hey, who's winning that BE game? Who's winning that James Island game? Oh, JB and Goldwater. They got me covered. Or if you're in some other part of the state, which it's a big, beautiful state, and we love everybody around here. If you're in Rock Thrill, if you're in Greenville, if you're in Chapin, if you're in Myrtle Beach, if you're in, it doesn't matter, name a town, Utahville, guess what? We have all your scores too. The whole state scores right there on that link on the JB and Goldwater app. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, maybe that is incentive enough to do so. JBandGoldwaterShow.com. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number, and it is also our text line, and it is open and available to all of you. But then it'll be shut down with 3 straight guests, 2 from the Post and Courier, 1 from the skydiving team of the Midlands. Just kidding. He's actually a reporter in his own right, but he's a skydiver apparently now too. Leading off at 12:30, David Shelton with the Post and Courier. Let's get an update on this OCA situation. It is certainly interesting what's going on in North Mount Pleasant with the charter school. We'll talk about what games are being played tomorrow night. What games aren't being played tomorrow night. So a very, very, very must listen to type conversation ahead in about 25 minutes or so with David Shelton. First time ever at 105 today. We have some of these around here from time to time. I guess everybody has a first time. John Blau, who covers Clemson for the Post and Courier, he'll join us at 105. What's going on in Tiger Town as they head towards Georgia in week 1 in Charlotte? There will be a media outing tonight that he'll be covering, but the news out of Clemson so far in the preseason is every day's been pretty good. So we'll get an update on that. And then again, Mike Yuva at 1:30 this afternoon with Watch Fox up there in Columbia. We'll get to Freddie in a minute. We'll get to the cockpit in just a little bit as well. Some tough news out of Athens, Georgia, Darren. But first of all, good afternoon.
So the schedule has totally changed in the Goldwater house because school yesterday went back into session. So now I feel like I have accomplished a day's worth of work, and the show it's noon. I feel like I've gotten so much done today. It's possible because I've had about 10 cups of coffee. So I'm jacked up and I'm ready.
Right.
And the feel, I mean, we'll mention the fact that the Little League World Series starts today. To see happiness in those kids' faces just out there playing baseball, we could use a lot more of that in the world. So at least you can flip there and get a smile on your face throughout the day, really, for the next couple days.
How old can you be to play in the Little League World Series now? 16?
It depends on how well you can break the rules, but I think it's 13 officially. I think.
We had Little League one year in Mount Pleasant. That was it. 1 year, and it happened to be the year that I played in it, alongside some best players ever come out of this state, Reese Havens and Mike Sisko, and we were all in that. We had what we pretty much called the dream team of an all-star team. We literally kicked everybody's rear end that came along, everybody. And then we got to the state championship, and if we won the state championship, we were going to go to Florida to play in the regional before you go to Williamsport. And we knew we're pretty good, so it's going to be hard to keep us out of Williamsport. We ran into a team, and 2 of the kids drove to the game. Kid you not. They were from Florence. They were sponsored by Legs, like the pantyhose that women wear.
For a Little League baseball team?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was the most unbelievable thing. Literally, 2 kids got out of the driver's seat of a car. We thought they were parents. They literally walked onto the field and started playing catch, and they were in the lineup. We protested. Oh, no. Their birth certificates. These kids 12. I said, 12? He was 12 years ago.
He's an advanced.
I am not lying. I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
I can tell because there's some real legit anger behind that story.
We were like, "Are you kidding me?" And we got 10 run ruled. I mean, we hadn't even given up a run. We got 10 run ruled. I mean, it was It was literally unbelievable. So that day, I said, "Forget the Little League crap. You know what? It's all crooked, and it's not the kids' fault. It's the parents. Parents a lot of them are just a joke. But you know what isn't a joke? High school football starts tomorrow. Next Saturday, college football starts 2 weeks from today. We get football right here in the state of South Carolina. The Citadel is at Coastal to open the season on Thursday, September the 2nd. You've also got an SEC club playing that night, Tennessee. You got NC State playing that night against South Florida. And Jeff Scott, Bobby Bentley down there with the Bulls, so they'll make the trip to Raleigh. So that'll be an interesting matchup on the ACC network that night at 7:30. Also on Thursday, September the 2nd, probably. So you've got Ohio State at Minnesota, and I guess that most would probably deem that the biggest game in the country to open the season that Thursday night, because it's Ohio State, number 4 in the country, on the road at Minnesota. Minnesota, a team under PJ Fleck that's done really, really well, minus the COVID stuff last year. I mean, we all know what they did 2 seasons ago. But I would make an argument that the game that I'm most interested in watching at 7 o'clock on Thursday, September the 2nd, is kind of we kick off the football season, is Boise State at UCF. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, as a Big Ten guy, I'm not even willing to jump on the bandwagon of I think that Ohio State game's the biggest game that night, because Ohio State should handle Minnesota. That game only becomes super interesting if Minnesota's hanging around at halftime. They should. I don't expect them to be even at halftime. So yeah, Boise State UCF, to me, let's see what they look like. UCF in particular, let's see what that new regime has down there. I think that's a more interesting game. I'll check out Ohio State, see what's going on at quarterback, see how they look. But I agree with you.
Yeah, the bounce house will be bouncing. I'm sure. I bet you Darren Stoltzfus will be there covering the ball game. Gus Malzahn certainly will be there. He's the head coach now of the fake national champion UCF program. And so that'll be probably because I'm so fired up for football, that'll be a 2 TV Thursday night for me. So I'll have Coastal and the Citadel on ESPN Plus, and I'll have UCF and Boise alongside that. How about that?
And are you going to have it on YouTube TV? Have you settled that discussion in your own brain?
I haven't, and let me tell you why. You ready to make fun of me? It's all good if you do. It's fine. So I have a lot of stuff DVR'd right now on Dish, and 80% of it, no, not 80%, more like 60% of it is Christmas movies. And I am like, dude, how am I going to get all these Christmas movies back? So, I mean, obviously, as the season approaches, Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those, which we're subscribed to, we'll get them back in the boat there. And then YouTube TV, obviously, you have Freeform and you have ACM, so they play a lot of Christmas movies, so I can just DVR them. So that's cool. But I'm also like, I want all my Christmas movies, you know?
So you've no idea how often these movies run. So if you just go in when you get YouTube, I try it now. See how many you can actually DVR in your 2-week free trial. Go in and hit record for the next time these movies play. Watch how fast that library builds up.
Okay. Well, you know,
I like 3:00 in the morning and you have no idea. And then one day, like Field of Dreams is in there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I started to figure that out because when you start to set up your free trial with YouTube TV, it says, you know, pick your interests and all that stuff. And so I did. Well, I just picked South Carolina, and already it's recorded 2 Carolina football games I didn't even know were playing. I think, well, one recorded yesterday, and there was another one somewhere that recorded in the middle of the night on the SEC network. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. I see Steven's message there. Get YouTube TV and download the Dofu Sports app. The Dofu app gives you all live sports for free.
I don't even know what that is. That's
I've
the
never
first
heard of it.
No, neither have I. But
I mean, is the FBI going to knock on my door or something? Like, am I going down a slippery legal slope here?
You can't be stealing like ESPN Plus content on that thing. I wouldn't think. No, there's no way that that's possible. Maybe it gives you updates and like when your events are going to start. So any live event on YouTube TV or something.
Yeah,
this is powerful right here. I watch Braves on the app.
I'm gonna I'll look at it. I'll look at it out. Look, I need you know, Darren and I need to make money, which means we need to work. So I can't be locked up in any prison cell somewhere for stealing somebody's cable. All right, Steven? So if you get me in trouble, we're gonna have a big problem. I'll Dofu, DOFU. Never heard of it. Okay.
All right, you can send me down a rabbit hole like right now in the middle of the show, diving into this thing. I'm going to try not to do that.
Check it out.
I am currently.
All right. 12:12 on this Thursday afternoon. Thank the good Lord, Pete. That means only one more day until the weekend. But coming up Saturday, August the 28th, next week, just kind of a quick reminder to everybody that college football will be playing Nebraska if they still have a team, which, by the way, a couple of transfers announced yesterday from Nebraska. So it sounds like things aren't going in the right direction in that program after this announcement came out from the NCAA. But Nebraska is at Illinois, and that's Brett Bielema will make his debut as the Illini's football coach on Fox at 1 o'clock. UConn, Fresno State, UCLA will host Hawaii, UTEP, New Mexico State, Southern Utah at San Jose State. I don't care about any of those teams, but we're all going to watch it because we've been craving college football. So we're certainly looking forward to that. And then, by the way, Jacksonville State and UAB play Wednesday, September the 1st. Not Jackson State, where Neon Dion is, but Jacksonville State and UAB, 7:30 on ESPN. So it starts August 28th, and you don't have to wait all the way till September the 4th to get football. You'll get it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that week, leading into all the big games coming up on that Saturday.
So the Gamecocks play on August 28th.
That's right. Well, on September the 1st. Jacksonville State.
Oh, I thought you said Jacksonville State was August 28th.
Wednesday, September the 1st.
Ah, Wednesday. All right.
Yeah.
See, I'm researching Dofu.
Yeah, I hear you. John Blau will be with us at 1:05 on the Clemson side of things. On the Georgia side of things is not good. Tyke Smith, the transfer from West Virginia, Darnell Washington, both corners who were projected to start are out for what looks like probably 3 to 4 weeks at least to start the season, which means they won't be in there for Clemson. There have been a few injuries for the Dogs in the preseason, Darren, and you know, this is a game that I think we've all kind of looked at and said, all right, this is a pretty even matchup. And, you know, if Clemson wins, it means this. If Georgia wins, it means this. Right now, the Tigers are, I think, 3-point favorites in the game. But, you know, Georgia's had more bad news leading into this matchup than the Tigers have, at least that's public, about guys who are not able to go. And, again, I don't know that DJ Uiagalelei is going to have some brilliant year at Clemson. I think we all seem to believe that he's going to have a great season, but you never know. But to give him the benefit of the doubt that, it's going to be just another year up there with quarterbacks, or a guy we've seen throw it all over the yard. We saw it firsthand against Notre Dame last year. You're probably going to want to have members of your secondary in there, and at least the starters. And Georgia's right now a little thin. So what does that mean? I don't know. I'm starting to lean that, look, Clemson's defense is really, really good. At least the word out of camp is, again, John Blau will come up at 105, and we'll talk about that. But, they're projected to be really good. I would say don't be shocked if at the end of the season overall they're probably a top 5 type defense in the country, top 10-ish maybe at worst. But I really like these guys. They can play. In saying that, week 1, potential Heisman candidate on the other side in JT Daniels. I don't anticipate, even with the issues that Georgia's had, Eric Gilbert, he's out. I don't know that he's totally out for the game, but right now he's out. Is it a high-scoring game? Is it a low-scoring game? Like, my gut leads me that there's going to be a few more points in this game than you might see middle of the season, end of the season, maybe a 35-30 type ball game or something like that, Darren. But, we'll see. But I feel like they're both going to find a way to put some points on the board in week 1.
The way it's trending that Clemson is in much better shape right now than Georgia is. These are two guys who we're going to start. One of them is a tight end. One of them is a defensive back. Then you add Gilbert in, there's another tight end. We don't know about JT Daniels, even though he should be really good. There's an offensive lineman that Georgia's got that's banged up, which, if everything is true about Clemson's defensive line, that's not ideal. I think if anyone puts up a bunch of points, I think it's Clemson that puts up a bunch of points. I'm not going to sit here today and say Clemson blows out Georgia, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that right now. But the way it feels in camp, everything's all roses coming out of Clemson's camp. Everyone's healthy right now. They do scrimmage today. Everyone's healthy right now. We're moving in the right direction. Chip on our shoulder because of last year. It all sounds good. Running back that no one's really seen. And then there's a whole lot of good stuff being said about him. And then over at Georgia, it's just problem here and problem there and question here. It doesn't feel right for a Georgia team with a lot of expectations. This is not the offseason you want with, 10, 12, 14 days before the season?
Yeah, no, it's tough news. I see Craig's prediction, 41-24 Clemson, and again, we don't really know. I don't know that that's a bad prediction, to be honest with you. Clemson wins that game. It's not a foregone conclusion that they go undefeated, but there's a high likelihood that they won't lose a game in the regular season if they win that one. Georgia, if they lose the game and it's close, they lost a close game. It doesn't affect anything in the SEC, obviously. They get blown out. They're not in any way, shape, or form out of anything, but the way that they'll be viewed for the next few weeks until they can redeem themselves if they keep winning will be a little differently, if that makes sense. Look, I get it. Clemson's really good, but we're talking about the elite of the elite here. And at this point in time, that conversation doesn't go past 6 or 7 teams. Maybe it eventually does. I hope it does. But right now, it's not much further than that. So if you get your rear end kicked by 2-3 touchdowns and it doesn't look good against Clemson in week 1, that's not to say at all. I don't think I'm dumb enough to say, well, they're out of it. That's just idiotic. They play in the SEC. More than likely, you're going to have to go through Alabama in an SEC championship game. And if you do all that, you're going to the playoff, period. But it will at least put them a little bit behind the 8 ball for about a month to kind of not just win their way out of it, but how they would win their way out of it. Like they'd need to be a little bit more impressive.
If they lose ugly, and if JT Daniels is not impressive during the time when they lose ugly, then their fall from the preseason ranking will be significant to the point where it'll feel like they're climbing uphill the rest of the season, because the schedule isn't that daunting. Other than Florida, there isn't much on there to say this should really bump our stock up until the SEC championship game. So it'll feel like, for Georgia fans and for the play and for anyone associated with them, probably, if it goes really wrong against Clemson and they fall, it'll feel like, even though if they're like 15, 16, 17, wherever they fall, it'll feel like they're fighting an uphill battle the entire season back, because it's winning, it's win or bust. That's it. Because that's the expectation, is get back to championship level. If you lose and look bad doing it to Clemson, the logic is we got to win out or that's it. So there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you lose week one, the likelihood of them getting in with 2 losses is not great. You'd have to see, obviously, what happens around the rest of the country for that to happen.
Unless, I guess, you win the East with 1 league loss and then beat Alabama.
And then beat Alabama.
That's a way back in, I guess.
That's definitely a way back in. But again, it would also depend on what happens around the rest of the country. What does Clemson do? Did you beat an undefeated Alabama who was number 1 by a field goal as time expired? Does that get you in and knock Alabama out? I don't think so. It didn't knock Alabama out, not in my eyes. What does Oklahoma look like? Is there another ace? Is Notre Dame going to be in the mix? Is there a Pac-12 team that can play their way into this conversation? What about Texas A&M? That's kind of where it comes down to, is like, what if A&M goes 11-1? Their only losses to Alabama. Georgia goes 10-2. Wins the SEC. All these same conversations we have every single year. We have the same conversations every single year.
Yep.
And in a few years, these conversations won't really matter. Those teams will probably all still be in there, and we'll be talking about these other teams that have a chance to get in with 2 losses. So it's fascinating how it's evolved. But nonetheless, Georgia's got some issues to deal with before they get in there. How many points, Stephen asked, does Clemson get with Muschamp being the the Georgia special teams coach? I hear you, tongue-in-cheek type stuff. I'm not going to get much into that. I've said it before, and I'm not going to back away from my comments. I think I personally like Will Muschamp, and I think that Will Muschamp is a really good football coach. I don't think he's a good head coach. I think he's proven that on his own. We don't need to say a whole lot about that, but there's a reason he became a head coach, because he was one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. The guy knows football. He gets it. The one special teams question I would have for him, but this is the decision you make as a head coach, not as a special teams coordinator, is you got a kicker that can't kick it over, or can't make it over 50 yards. Why are you still trying it? And that happened a lot, unfortunately, at South Carolina. But I think that Georgia is better with Will Muschamp on the field as an assistant coach. He's a really good look, man. When guys like Nick Saban and Steve Spurrier and on and on and on sing your praises as a football coach, you're a good coach. You're a good coach. He was a bad head coach, but he's a good coach. He's a good coach, and Georgia's pretty dang lucky to have a guy like that on their staff. If we're going to pick fun on Will Muschamp, we need to pick fun at Auburn, because they got Mike Bobo and Derek Mason. And Derek Mason was one of the best DCs in the country before he became a head coach at Vanderbilt. And I think he's in a pretty comfortable role right now with the Tigers. So
not every role suits everyone. You can be good at things and not as good as others. That's a pretty common occurrence around the world. That's right. And don't get me wrong, Stephen, I'm not throwing shade at you. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not picking on you or anything like that. I just I've said it before, and I think that to put a cap on this conversation, but when he got fired at Florida and Spurrier was still at South Carolina, every Gamecock fan in the country was clamoring for Will Muschamp to take over as the defensive coordinator at Carolina. Everybody wanted him. And then he chose Auburn for 1 year, and then he ended up here anyways as a head coach. But everybody wanted him to run the defense, because everybody knew the guy can run a defense. Yeah. He just can't run it as a head coach, unfortunately. All right, the cockpit, this, that, and the other. Yeah, the cockpit will be crowing on September the 4th. Yesterday, the University of South Carolina rebranded their student sections
in all sports, really the 4 that actually kind of have student sections, most notably Williams-Brice Stadium, and then also over at Colonial Life Arena at Founders Park and over at the Graveyard where they play soccer. As a matter of fact, it's pretty neat how they kind of line the what do you even call that? Where the goals are, the baseline, or what do they call that in soccer? End line. Gold jacket, green jacket. I'm just kidding.
Goal line, end line,
gold line, gold star.
I got your soccer lingo for you.
Okay, because I don't have it. So it's now called the Cockpit. I kind of heard about this like a month ago. I got a buddy that used to work in marketing at the University of South Carolina. He's been out for a while. He still knows all those guys very well and gals. They used to call Williams-Brice Stadium the Cockpit decades ago. And then this company called PETA got involved. And they were like, okay, well, we just won't go down this road. We're not going to, fight this. Well, they pretty much told PETA to shove up their ass yesterday because they don't really give a crap. Obviously, they're not condoning a bunch of tailgaters pulling Gamecocks out of their trucks and having them spur each other to death on the side of George Rogers Boulevard. It's just a student section name. I think it's okay. So that's we'll see what else they've got going on to kind of rebrand it inside the ballpark. Looks pretty neat. And I think students will certainly be happy about that. So there you go. Some good news yesterday from Carolina. They've been working hard to market themselves, kind of rebrand some things. This is something they probably needed to do for a while. Everybody's asked for this for years. They finally got it right. Yeah.
And I like what Clint just said, that the mascot they used, I mean, it looks good right there. And then once you have that, you have the ability to market around that. So now you got the Cockpit. Now what are you going to do in game to enhance that feel and get the students involved that way? It makes a lot of sense from a branding standpoint and from a game day atmosphere standpoint. So I'm sure, why not? You could have gone wrong. You could have named it something weird, or you could have used a cheesy looking logo, but it sounds good and it looks good. So good job.
That's right. Yeah. Sounds good. Looks good. Will be fun. No doubt. Sandstorm in the Cockpit, September the 4th, and so on and so forth. All right, David Shelton coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But last night, the hot Atlanta Braves, they held on. Thank God for offense, because the bullpen sure as hell didn't show up, at least in the 9th inning. It was getting a little dicey there, but the Braves win 11-9, 3.5 up now in the division. The note from last night is Freddie Freeman. He hits for the cycle. This is pretty amazing right now. We're headed towards September, and here are the Braves. They've been pretty much, I think they were at one point in time like 7.5, 8 games out. Totally turned this thing around. The tough stretch comes up, but they've got Baltimore tomorrow night after an off night tonight. But Freddie Freeman is making a real case for the MVP. And Darren's going to pop up his resume now. And I didn't even realize that some of these numbers were what they are. I know what his current numbers are. If you're watching our post-up careers, Freddie Freeman MVP resume, you see it on the right there, hitting .301, which is 7th in the league, 27 home runs. That's tied for third. He's got 70 ribbies, and OPS is really good now at 919. But I had no idea that he was hitting .372 in his last 62 games, guys. That encompasses over 2 months of baseball. Mm-hmm. .372. It's remarkable. And if you go back to when the calendar had turned into May, there was a lot of the sky is falling people out there. What's wrong with Freddie Freeman? Is it his family life? He's got twins now. I have twins. Yes, it does change you. Take some time to kind of get back in the groove of things. He is on fire. And Austin Riley has made this real case for the MVP. I mean, Austin Riley's a serious MVP contender. But Freddie Freeman, right now, Darren, it's hard to say. But if you had to vote today, you got Tatis, you got Freeman. It's probably between one of those two guys. I don't know.
Yeah, a little while ago, it was Harper who had really taken a stranglehold on it if Tatis wasn't able to come back. Since Tatis has come back, he's played some in the outfield, and he's still hitting bombs. But I think if the Phillies don't win the division, then Bryce Harper's out of the conversation. If the Phillies don't win the division and the Braves do, and this run from Freddie Freeman that he's on right now, here's this post-up careers resume again, then it's going to be hard to say, hey, reigning MVP, the guy who carried this team when the team was all but dead and out, turned your season and the team's season around, the reigning MVP, we're going to just go give it to somebody else on the team. That's going to be tough. What these 62 games that you pointed out, that 372, that goes back to about the beginning of June. He was hitting 2-something, and now at 301. Last night was the first night he went to bed this season with an average over 300. He's the anchor of a lineup that's a power hitting lineup, and it's a lineup that's on fire, and this team can't lose. Every time they win, the Phillies have been losing. I mean, it's like you went 2-3 games back to 3.5 up in 6 days.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not gonna wear my Braves blinders here and say that he's the MVP. There's such a long ways to go. I would almost say if I had a vote today, as much as I'd love to give it to Freddie, I would probably need to give it to Fernando Tatis. I mean, he is some kind of special. I mean, this guy is going to have 100 RBI at least. He's going to have 40 home runs, and he's a shade below 300 right now. And my gut tells me he'll get up over it. And where are the Padres, without Fernando Tatis? I don't know. That division is just ridiculous. The thing with the Padres is do they get in or not? Do they get in? They're not going to win the division. So do they get in? Right now, they're in. They're second in the wild card, and they're a game and a half up on the Cincinnati Reds. So that's probably going to have a lot to do with this, what they do down the stretch. But there's no doubt, Darren, that all of those names, they're all in the thick of it. They're all having unbelievable years. And Freddie's starting slow and getting to where he is now is just remarkable.
Yeah, it's been a complete turnaround. Some of the notes on the cycle, it's the second for him in a Braves uniform. I think it's only been 8 cycles for the Braves in their history, and the third in Major League Baseball this year. The last one of them, ironically enough, Trey Turner. He finished it with a triple, sprained his finger, and then missed a couple of days, and then he got traded.
And the nuts, Nats.
Yeah,
Nats.
And you got kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, the Nats season in a nutshell, right there, my friends. Post Up Careers brings you a resume around here at least once a week. Matter of fact, Franklin Buchanan, who owns it, he's now got NIL deals with a few Gamecocks up in Columbia, South Carolina. So if you head to the Post Up Careers website, they can tell you all about that and so much more. What a cool dude, what he's doing for people, getting their lives on track and things like that. Post Up Careers, he's the best in the business, resume writing, LinkedIn stuff, all the crap that you think you know something about till you sit down to do it and you go, yeah, I don't know. I forgot what I'm doing here.
Yeah. How should I make this look? How do I stand out? How do I make myself different from the other guy who's going for the same job that I'm going for?
That's right. That's right.
What he does.
Have Franklin take care of that for you, and go out and make a bunch of money and have twins like me and be broke. There you go. 12:33 on this Thursday afternoon. Thirsty Thursday is what we call it. Got to hit a timeout. David Shelton will tell us where he's eating mac and cheese and more about high school football on the other side of this break.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike 2.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. 12:35. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. John Blau ahead on Clemson 105. We've got Mike Uve at 135. We'll recap the comments of Marcus Satterfield and Clayton White in Columbia. And Marcus Satterfield has been speaking extensively. I'm watching it right now. I'm in the press conference here, but I'm here, so I'm watching it. But he's been speaking extensively on this QB situation. We're going to get you all caught up on that coming up here in just a little bit. But first, David Shelton is going to get us caught up on high school football. It's supposed to be played tomorrow night. We're going to find out here shortly, and hopefully we can get some news on this OCA deal as well. Fresh off of a bowl of mac and cheese, David, what's up?
Oh, fresh off a bowl of blueberry oatmeal.
Oh, nice and healthy.
All right. How was that? Did you make that yourself?
Whatever. Yeah, I poured the packet in a bowl, and I poured the milk in it, and I microwaved it. So, yeah, I guess technically I did make it myself.
I wasn't asking how Darren Goldwater makes his mac and cheese. I was asking about your oatmeal.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I mean, just between me and you and any other part of the world that's listening, oatmeal sucks, but you got to do what you got to do.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. If you ever get chicken pox, when I was a kid, I was in a bath of oatmeal. I remember that. It works for that too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, good to know. All right, David Shelton, we're going to get to the stuff that we are hopefully going to see tomorrow night here in just a minute. High school football games, week -6 or week 0, whatever the hell they're calling it. But I do want to try to get an update on Oceanside Collegiate Academy in Mount Pleasant. It's the charter school in North Mount Pleasant for those that may not necessarily know about it or know enough about it. A report out that there may be some misuse of funds somewhere along the line. This is a very complicated situation. I had no idea that this school's leadership went as deep as it does into Florida and God knows where else. What do you know about this situation? How can you explain this in layman's terms so we understand what the heck is going on here?
Well, I know about as much as you do because I was totally confused. I tell you, the guy you should have on your show pretty soon is Jeff Hartzell. He's done a great job covering this for the Post and Courier.
Okay.
And it basically, I guess it basically boils down to, like you said, a misuse of about almost $2 million by a company in Florida that runs the charter schools, that the Oceanside School Board wasn't paying attention or whatever. A lot of people dropped the ball on this, and it got to the wrong people that make these kind of decisions as far as South Carolina charter schools. And, me personally, I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think they're going to close. I think they're going to get this thing ironed out over the next 8 months. There are some questions to answer, and I take it they paid back most of the money or whatever. So I think it's going to get solved. I know there's a lot of high school fans in the area that would love nothing more than to see Oceanside close down, and that's a totally different dynamic. But I think just based on conversations I've had, it will eventually get ironed out. I don't think we're going to see the closing of that school now. I mean, I'm talking just basic information that I know. There could be underlying things, and there could be some more serious things that happen. But it's been my experience that these things tend to work themselves out over the course of a year. So that's why I would be very surprised if it got worse than this. Granted, this is enough to close the school down, but I think the governing body of charter schools basically has said, we got our eyes on you, and you screw up anything else and we'll pull your charter. So that's basically where we are. I think they're going to, I've been told they have new leadership. I think the principal is no longer there. Not that she was involved in any way. I'm just saying she's not there anymore. So I think it'll be business as usual. I don't think there's any reason for any students at Oceanside there now to panic. But you get into the spring and you're starting to hear more and more and more, then maybe they should panic. But I think right now, it is a problem. I'm not trying to, poo-poo on the problem, but it's just not, I think it's very fixable. I don't think it's like an end-all be-all, okay, we're closing you down at the end of the year. I just, my sense with this is just not, that's not going to happen.
I do believe, David, it's important to try to separate the different pieces of this issue as well for folks, because hopefully people understand that this isn't, Joe Call's fault. Joe Call's just the football coach. This is I don't really know how else to explain it, but this is way above his head. This was probably news to him, if I had to guess here, and all the coaches probably in that school.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with athletics. It has nothing to do with the education of the student. This has to do with people far above any of those people's pay grade that have misused funds. If you call Joe Call right now, he'd be like, yeah, I hear there's a problem, but I'm trying to get ready to play Goose Creek. And that's my biggest concern. It's not an athletics problem. It's a charter school parent company problem and Oceanside's problem. And the thing about charter schools, they have their own school board. Oceanside has their own school board. They govern themselves, and it's usually made up of parents or business leaders or whoever they choose to put on the school board. And sometimes a lot of this stuff goes unnoticed or unchecked because nobody knows to check it or to notice it. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it sounds a little bit like that some people either intentionally had their head turned or were focused on other things and this kind of happened. It has nothing to do with the athletes, the coaches, or, the teachers or anything like that. This is an administrative problem, sort of like, when things happen in Washington, the president and the Congress may know, but some of their underlings may not have any idea what's going on, which lately it seems like nobody up there has any idea what's going on. But that's a whole different show and a whole different story.
Boy, that's the truth. All right. Well, you take care. You don't really need to say a lot more than that. Is there final question on this? I don't want to actually get into some football here, but is there any chance that you know of that due to some type of legal issue, if they run into it, if they if it comes about, some type of ruling from somewhere, anything like that something could stop the fall athletic season, or nothing like that is even in play that you know of?
No, I've heard nothing.
Okay.
Again, I've heard nothing about athletics. The major story would be if the school closes in May, then obviously that would affect athletics for the for the future. But nothing's coming down the pike anytime soon. I mean, if somebody filed a lawsuit, blah blah blah, you're talking months of litigation, and before you even get before a judge, basically. So it's a lot of stuff, again, way over my head in terms of pay grade, and honestly, I have not paid a great amount of attention to it. We have people at the Post and Courier who are paying attention and who are writing daily or finding out things, but my avenue is sports, and it's never even broached that level of that, hey, we're going to shut you down in October and your whole season, your whole school year is over with. That I have not heard anything like that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it would be a shame for kids to be punished for something that a bunch of morons had to do with, and God knows where.
Yeah, not even the guys responsible for the kids' well-being above them.
Are we talking about the NCAA, or are we talking about Oceanside? Because the NCAA is pretty good at doing that. They actually drew that playbook, as a matter of fact. All right, Dave, 12:45 here, Thursday afternoon. Almost the weekend, almost to week 0 of high school football. I don't know why we do this. It's week 1. Just call it week 1, but it's going to be week 0. So the easier question is, what games are playing tomorrow night? I know there's a bunch that have been called off and postponed, but do you have a schedule in front of you? Who the hell's playing football tomorrow?
I do not have the schedule right in front of me, but I think there are 10 games in the area. I know Baptist Hill and North Charleston are playing, again, unless something happens, and I haven't caught it yet, but Fort Gal, Bishop England are playing, Oceanside and Goose Creek are playing. So, and there's some other smaller schools, lower classifications playing. So, yeah, there'll be about 10 games tomorrow, unless something happens between now and then. But there will be football, albeit a reduced schedule. But some interesting games. The Bishop England Porter-Gal, that's a good little rivalry. That'll be a good game. And then, like I've said before, this Oceanside Goose Creek game is a third round playoff level type game. This is for this to be week 0 and to have this game on the books. It's going to be a very entertaining game. It's going to have a lot of college prospects in it. I would say that these two teams are probably 2-3 in the area behind Fort Dorchester, and I won't say who's 2 and who's 3 until they play. Then that'll be a lot easier to pick. But it's two really good teams, and I've heard they've been selling tickets, online. As of yesterday, there were over 2,000 tickets sold already. Joe Call told me this will be the biggest Oceanside home game gate that they've ever had already. I mean, they didn't have 2,000 people at their playoff game last year. Mm-hmm. The Hanahan game was probably their best game in terms of attendance. They played us at Johnson Haygood, so there'd be 3,000 people there, and it won't look like very many. But it'll be a festive atmosphere. I know both teams are excited about playing it. Doesn't mean a thing. But it will be a great measuring stick for both coaches. They can go back on Saturday and Sunday and go, all right, we got exposed here. We got to fix this, because these two teams will expose each other in some areas, no question.
Yeah, I think that's certainly in our neck of the woods. That's the game to keep an eye on from a competitive standpoint. From a rivalry standpoint, I'm with you there. BE and Porter-Gal in week 1 is pretty fun. I'm assuming you're going to be at Johnson Haygood tomorrow night, right?
Well, no, I was going to, and I got changed to Bishop England Porter-Gal, because we have, again, with our affiliations with the local weeklies in the area, the Goose Creek Gazette, the Berkeley Independent, Somerville Journal. Those guys cover games basically for us. Our paper owns them, but we try to allow them to cover the games they want to cover. Goose Creek will be Rob Gant, so he'll cover that game. Roger Lee will probably cover Pinewood and St. John's from the Somerville perspective, and then I take the one that's left over basically And I'm okay. I mean, I wanted to see the Oceanside District game. I'm not gonna lie. I pouted a little bit, like a 5-year-old. But I wiped my tears and I put my big boy pants on and said, you know what, I'll go to Bishop Ingham Portugal. It's interesting. Those two teams have been on quarantine for a while. They've only come back practicing recently, so not sure the level of football we're going to see, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to see the best that both teams will have to offer maybe later in the year. But again, it is a pretty good rivalry, and to stick this one at week 0, the emotion of the situation will probably make up for some of the lack of practice and lack of fundamentals and skills. So it'll be fun. Football to me is fun. I can pretty much. I mean, I went and watched an 8-man football game one year and had a blast. I think the score was 77-68 or something. It was fun.
It might be the score of the Goose Creek.
I quit writing down scoring plays at halftime. I said, you know what? That's not going to be important.
When I'm doing a game and I get to the point of stopping charting the scores, that's the point I know that this game is. It's somewhere.
This game is over.
It's somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, that's
where in your situation, doing TV and guys that do radio and whatnot, they call that stuff filler, and you have a whole sheet full of filler that you don't use. If you're ever watching Darren and Dean or whoever doing games on TV, and they start talking about the weather in Michigan or
right.
A food menu at some restaurant, the game's out of hand.
Yeah, or we've gotten good, at least last year we did, at talking about the JB and Goldwater show when we needed some filler.
Well, I just found out the other day that apparently that happened a couple of times this year on Gamecock baseball broadcasts on the SEC network. Kip Botnight brought our show up a couple of times. I had no idea. But certainly appreciate that. What about first back? What's that?
I said send him a check.
Yeah, no, we can't afford that. We barely cut ourselves checks anymore. Well, and when we do, they go to our wives. You know how that works. What about First Baptist? Is that game against North Florida Christian still on tomorrow night?
Yeah, as far as I know, Johnny hasn't texted me. I haven't seen anything on Twitter, but honestly, I haven't been on Twitter a whole lot this morning, trying to get some other stuff done. But I have not seen that game will not go on. So that'll be a pretty big test for First Baptist, because they're a team that a lot of expectations and a pretty good track record the last few years, but not a lot of depth on this team. They got a good offensive line. They got a good running back. Quarterback's new. Some of the receivers are new. But they're going to be good up front on both sides of the ball. And good linebacker, Kane Moses, a good junior linebacker. But they got a lot of holes to fill. But talking to Johnny the other day, they feel like they're 22. They run out there to start are pretty good. It's just they got to have some depth. They've got to develop some depth, because it's so hard to go through a season without getting some guys injured. And frankly, it's going to be very hard for these seasons to get through without COVID. So you better have some depth, and that's his biggest concern right now.
Yes, exactly. I mean, some of these Power 5, these 5A type programs with more players might be able to squeak through some of this stuff, but some of these SCISA teams, 2A, 1A, even 3A programs like that only have 40-something players, maybe. Yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult on some of these guys. Let me ask you about 2A, Region 6. Woodland, Timberland are there. Philip Simmons under Eric last year had a pretty good season. He's just been building this thing slowly, steadily, and surely for the last couple of years. Eric Bendig is who I'm talking about, boys and girls, former Wando Warrior, of course. Is there enough room at the top of this region for 3? Obviously, Woodland and Timberland are guys you kind of expect to be there every year, but Philip Simmons is, as that area grows, that Cainhoy area, that population grows, they're getting some guys. What do you think?
Well, I think Eric is doing a really good job. I think, they're 5 years old. I mean, for them to make the playoffs last year, to beat Timberland beat them 3-0 on a field goal, that was a big stepping stone. Now, Timberland was not great last year. Timberland will be better this year. Woodland is still kind of the team to beat, but not going to be the Woodland that that people have seen in recent years. I don't know that they're going to be able to sling it around like they want to. They may have to rely more on a running game, which kind of helps you defensively if you're Phillip Simmons. They've got some good players. I saw them at Jamboree last week. They've got a handful of really talented looking players. The thing I notice about them is they play hard. I mean, whatever that coaching staff is doing to motivate those kids, they play hard. And if they can maintain that, I really think that, I would say Woodland is the favorite, but I don't think there's a clear favorite. I think Phillip Simmons could win that region. Now, granted, they got to, to do that, they're going to have to beat a Timberland and a Woodland in the same year. And they did lose some really good players, but I just don't get the sense that region is just real strong at the top. I think there are each team has some good players, but I think we're going to have to see how the non-region schedule plays out to see where these teams fit in. Right now, I would say on August 19th, it's wide open. That's what I would say. But Woodland would be the favorite. They've got the better athletes and probably the most depth. But Phillip Simmons will be in that chase. I mean, those games will be competitive.
And they got to hit the road for Georgetown tomorrow. Does Phillip Simmons? Oh, beautiful Georgetown. Well, where does Georgetown play football? They don't play at Mike Johnson Park, do they?
No, they have a stadium at their school. Jimmy Noonan's the head coach there, former Wando coach.
Really? Yeah, Jimmy Noonan. Yeah,
missed that.
Yeah. Mike Johnson Park, one of the great baseball parks out there, is where they play the IP Classic.
Unbelievable. That's where they need to play the Field of Dreams, except it's too small.
Yeah, it's easier to get it out of dead center there.
Yeah.
It's much easier to lift one. Yeah. I hit one out of dead center there when I was a junior, and I hit one to deep left, and it was caught about 20 feet shy of the wall. And I said, well, damn, I hit that one better than the other one.
The center field, it's the only stadium in the world where center field is one of the shortest parts of the field because they have the old stands back, the old concrete, where it used to play football. They have those back there. So the way it's configured, it takes a man to hit it out of left. But as you go around the field, it doesn't take, that me and Darren are capable of hitting home runs out of there.
We do have a question about some of the teams in the upstate. He feels like Tyler shot it to us. Seems like teams up there are more thin numbers wise than usual. Is it the same down here?
Yeah, it is. I mean, numbers, I'm not going to say, I hesitate to say across the board, but there are some 5A programs with very low numbers. I'm talking 40-ish.
Wow.
Which in most years, that's pretty low for 5A.
Wow.
So I've heard, haven't seen official rosters, but I've heard some 5A, 4A schools are in the mid-30s to maybe 40 players. So numbers are down. Speaking of numbers, the other number that's way down is officials. There aren't enough officials right now to play all these teams to play on Friday night. They're not. They're going to have to play some varsity games on Thursdays, on Saturdays. They'll have to bump JV games in some instances to a Wednesday. There just aren't enough. The high school league has been putting this out for 2 months. Like, hey guys, be prepared. We're going to call you, and you may have to play your Friday night game on Thursday, so you can have 5 officials at your game. So they've been imploring people to sign up to become officials and take the test. And so Jamie, if you're looking for some extra money, you can go be football official on Friday night. They might even let you do it without even taking the test, since you're so brilliant in these matters of football.
Why?
There is a shortage.
Why? Why is there a shortage? What's going on?
I think the older group of guys is, you got some guys retiring out, just not capable of doing it anymore, and you just don't have a lot of young guys. I mean, people don't want to be there to have people scream and yell at them. And same way baseball, the umpires are low. They don't want to have people scream at them and coaches yell at them. And, the pay is okay, but it's not.
Yeah, they're going to have to pay them more.
Some people's minds, it may not be worth it. But, I mean, it's just kind of a combination of factors. In COVID, you've had, you could have some officials that say, you know what, I think I'm going to stay home on Friday night. Yep. I'm not going to subject myself to the possibility of getting COVID. I hate to say this. I try to say this in a way that I can not sound mean, but some of these COVID cancellations early actually are good for those officials, because now they're with only 10 games in the Charleston area, there are enough officials for tomorrow night. That there are games all over the state that have been postponed or canceled, so that kind of helps the official number. And that will be the case as you go through. Last year was the same case. Last year there was an official shortage, but because games were getting postponed or canceled, some would move to Thursday, and you could take the same group. They could do games on Thursday and then go do games on Friday. Mm-hmm. So if there is a Friday night where every single game on the schedule gets played, which if it does, I'll be shocked. But if there is that night, there could be some official shortages. The high school league has said that numerous times. I heard, I was in one of their meetings, and Charlie Winsky said it to every coach in there. Said, if we have the situation, if we're not able to remedy it, be prepared to move your games. If you want to get your games played, which most coaches, I mean, I've always been of the opinion you could play a varsity football game on a Thursday night. Sure. You don't do anything in practice, a walk-through practice. Thursday night's reserved for JV. I understand that. But, you could play a lot of varsity games on a Thursday night or a Saturday, but I'm pretty sure people don't want to go on Saturday because of the madness college football is.
Yeah, they're not going to fight that. No. Look, first of all, you said it wrong. Former mid-80s throwing right-hander Charlie Winsky at the College of Charleston.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he really had some juice. I tell him that all the time. Charlie, man, that 84 looked 87. David, I see one way, and we got to let you go on this note. We got to get to John Blau. We got to get to a break and get to John Blau, but we'll talk more about this. But I only see one way out of this for the officials. Number one, you can't get anybody trained fast enough now, and maybe somebody here and there. They're going to pay them more. They're just going to have to pay more money. I mean,
they got to make it enticing. They got to do something to entice these officials that will want to sign up and do it.
Absolutely, they're going to pay them more. I mean, it is what it is. They might think they don't have money. They better find it, or they're going to have games canceled. And there's going to be a lot of pissed off people when that happens. So,
then you find the money.
You'll find it real quick. They're just going to have to pay them more.
Oceanside.
That's right.
Nicely done. That's how you wrap up a segment. I mean, that's how you tie everything together. Well done.
Yeah.
A lot for more time next week, and we'll kind of we have so many of our audience, certainly in this area, but we have a lot from around the state, and I owe it to all of you to make sure we do a better job of hitting on some of the top matchups in the Palmetto State each week. So we'll do that. We'll get David. We'll get him studying up on the Gaffneys of the world, and we'll talk about it next week. How about that?
Absolutely.
There you go. You've forgotten more than I'll ever know about high school football, so we'll make sure.
I've forgotten a lot lately.
Well, it's 2021. Hey, man, have a wonderful weekend. Looking forward to some high school football getting cranked up tomorrow night, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
Later.
There you go. Thank you. David Shelton with the Post and Courier. Time for a timeout. The National Anthem's up next. When we return, on the other side of that, his inaugural appearance on the JB and Goldwater Show. John Blau is going to give us an update on Clemson football. And at 1:35, we'll talk about the Gamecocks with Mike Uva. Have some very interesting notes from Marcus Satterfield and Clayton White in Columbia, South Carolina today. So Gamecocks Tigers are going to take over hour 2 here. Don't go anywhere on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Thanks to David Shelton on that for that high school update in that last segment there. Certainly always appreciate him. Football underway tomorrow at the high school level. Mike Yuva ahead at 1:35 with Watch Fox up there in Columbia. Again, we'll have plenty on South Carolina. But first, his inaugural debut to the JB and Goldwater Show, John Blau covering Clemson for the Post and Courier. Got a ringing endorsement from our friend Gene Sapikoff the other day on our show. And as soon as we heard that, we said, well, I'll be John Brown. We'll invite John Blau. So here he is, 1:08 on this Thursday afternoon. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
Hey, we're with football season right around the corner. I think we're all about in the same boat, right? Things are getting rocking and rolling for you up there.
Yeah, exactly. Suffering in the heat for a little bit, and then somebody in the media corps got COVID, so we're all Zooming again. But yeah, we're busy enough, I guess. I would say.
Well, you know the whole COVID situation. I thought that Coach Sweeney said last year he was going to make sure this was gone by this time this year. He didn't do that.
Oh, I guess nobody made him the chief medical officer of the United States of America or anything, so I don't think he has control over that. But yeah, that's where we are, unfortunately.
You add that to the list of things that people think that Dabo and other college football coaches can control, and Those are the responses you get. All right, John. So let's kind of, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out to join Darren and I today and get us caught up on what's going on. We're only a little over a couple of weeks away. Georgia recently has been getting some bad news. It looks like Darnell Washington, Tyke Smith, the transfer in the secondary from West Virginia, won't be able to go for the Dogs against the Tigers in Charlotte. That doesn't mean that Darian Kendrick won't be able to go. He's a former Tiger who's playing over there in Athens, certainly. But it's been pretty good news coming out of the upstate that we can get, at least. Everybody seemingly, especially after the first scrimmage, glowing about the defense. The offense, they feel pretty good about it. That also seems fair to say. But have a couple of things to work on. What have you learned since last week's scrimmage where the defense really played well? I think Dabo said there were no penalties. First time he's ever seen that. What's happened since then? What adjustments have been made starting with the offensive side of the football?
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback center exchange, I think, is the main thing they want to clean up right now. You have some of these issues sometimes beginning of camp, especially when you're trying to figure out the center situation. And that's really the question mark, probably the biggest question mark right now for the offense is whether it's going to be Hunter Rayburn or Mason Trotter, or if Matt Bockhorst even slides over to center. We've heard that, Bockhorst is even getting some first team reps at the center position, which then moves the question mark over to left guard, which Paul Kehoe, even Marcus Tate, who's a true freshman, who's a tackle, but they've been working a little bit at left guard, has been getting some mention as well. So that's kind of the thing that they need to clean up right now. Also, there are some nagging injuries we've heard about. Jojo, who's been having a great camp, receiver supposedly, Dabo said has a hamstring deal he's dealing with. And then Joseph Ngata has also been dealing with some nagging injuries. But otherwise, I mean, like you said, the defense is just really, really good from everything we've heard. Just so much experience up front. And that's part of what Dabo's also been talking about. I mean, if you're going up against that defense, you're going up against the Brent Venables defense. It's throwing you a lot of stuff. And you're still in the process of installing stuff as an offense. Things aren't always going to look good in the scrimmage. But the defense definitely shining. Shows you that they are what they thought they were going to be, probably, or they hope to be. Obviously, we didn't see it, and it's not Georgia, so who knows? But it's sounding very optimistic on that side of the ball, at least, I would say.
Well, I guess the other side of that, John, is, if the defense is playing really well, and again, I get it, guys like you and so many other in that press corps can't get on the field and watch a lot of this, but so you're kind of hearing what you're hearing and getting glimpses when you can. But there's a lot of expected from DJ Uiagalelei. You just mentioned it, you hit the nail on the head. He's probably going up against the best defense he's going to see this year now in the preseason. What has that been like for him? What has that been like for the defense? I don't know if he's gotten the better of them or they've gotten the better of him, or if it's kind of evened out, but what's that dynamic been like over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, and that's where Dabo keeps going back to how steady of a guy DJ is. There was a funny quote from Brian Brzee. I asked him about how level-headed he seems. He actually roomed with DJ last year, and I think it was before his first start against Boston College, and Brzee was really jittery. He's a freshman. He just gets that way before games. He's like, DJ, you nervous? And DJ was like, I don't get nervous. And just really deadpan. I don't get nervous. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I don't get nervous. So that's the thing they really, really like about DJ Uiagalelei is that he's pretty even keeled. So things are probably going wrong every now and again with, like we said, the center quarterback exchange, in terms of, they can't hit him, obviously, in preseason, but I'm sure there's Justin Foster, Xavier Thomas, Justin Maskell, KJ Henry, all those guys are flying off the edge. And he's having to move around and make throws. And I'm sure there's been some struggle there. But at the same time, they like just how even keeled he is. He's been in so many big games ever since he was in like 5th and 6th grade. I mean, he's been playing big-time football for a very long time. And so that's what they're hopeful about. So, again, he's facing really, really good looks. He's getting kind of off his spot. He's getting pressure coming in different directions and really moving around. But, hopefully by the time you play Georgia, you've seen enough of this that it wouldn't rattle him during a game. And even so, again, he played really well against Boston College and Notre Dame last year. He seems to be able to rise to the moment. And so whatever's going on right now, it doesn't concern them too much because it's just his personality and the way he is.
Is there anything that Dabo, that offensively they can do to, you don't want to change the game plan at all, but proactively try and keep Uiagalelei upright, not just upright, but healthy because of the question marks around him? Will they run him less? Have they talked about that?
Yeah, they haven't talked a ton about that. I don't think they're going to spill the game plan or whatever, but they have talked in terms of the tight ends. It's been interesting. Just getting them up to speed as blockers and being an extension of offensive line. Braden Galloway, he's more of a receiving type, but Davis Allen, he's got kind of a dual threat ability there. And then Jalen Lay's one of the surprises in camp, just a third tight end really emerging, but he's making plays as a pass catcher. But they said, I want to see Jay Lay put a hat on somebody like that. They want those tight ends to be physical, kind of help them, A, establish a run game, B, be ready to help in pass protection. And then also that also brings in the running back conversation in terms of, obviously Travis Etienne was a great player, but part of being a veteran running back, the thing that's so great about having that is he understands pass protection. It usually takes a couple of years for guys to really get up to speed on that. So it's Lynn J. Dixon, the veteran who knows all of that, who can kind of come in and recognize all the blitzes and keep DJ upright a little bit and help out there? Or is Will Shipley a true freshman? Is he ready to be a guy who's going to put his chin into somebody, if an edge rusher gets through and kind of help DJ step up in the pocket? So we haven't heard really specific in terms of, is DJ going to run a ton or not? Obviously the offensive line, again, they love Jordan McFadden and Walker Parks at the tackles. It's just kind of on the interior where they got to figure some things out. And what's the balance going to be in terms of run and pass? And then who helps out in all those situations, whether it be the tight end or the running back? Those are things that, it's probably going to take until we get to the opener to find out how that all plays itself out.
116 is Thursday afternoon, August the 19th, headed right towards Clemson and Georgia, the biggest game of the country that Saturday, September the 4th. John Blau with us from the Post and Courier. So who's number 2? Who's behind DJ?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, Tyson Pumachan, he's made a remarkable recovery from his Achilles injury. Being out at camp, that is one of the things we've been able to see, that he is out there throwing footballs around. Obviously not moving 100%, and so we don't know if he's going to be ready for, if DJ were to get hurt, let's say on the first snap against Georgia, is Tyson going to come in? Not sure. Beyond that, Hunter Helms is the guy who's been around, obviously the walk-on, and he's not a normal walk-on in terms of he had offers from, from Division I programs to go play elsewhere. He chose to go to Clemson as a walk-on, and he's a year into the system. He's got a little experience. But the other guy that's really, really interesting, and I don't know if this plays itself out at all, but Will Taylor, the true freshman. Dabo compared him to Doug Flutie the other day, which is an interesting comparison. I think it's actually a question that I asked, because I was wondering, you have this 5'10", 170-pound quarterback. Can he get the ball vertical? Can you run the same offense with Will Taylor? He said, yeah, he can get it everywhere. He's got these great arm angles. He can see. He gets it places, and people were probably saying this about Doug Flutie back in the day. He can't get it down the field, but no, he can. He's just calling him a really exciting guy. And now is Will Taylor going to be ready? September 4th against Georgia, if something were to happen. I don't know. Is it a more of a gimmicky offense if Will Taylor's in there, as opposed to, again, dropping back at 5'10", 175 and shooting it over the middle on a post route or whatever? I don't know. But that is the interesting dynamic there. That, again, we don't know about Tyson. Hunter Helms is a walk-on, but he's got a little experience. That Will Taylor's just a really, really just kind of wild card in that mix. So, I guess the short answer is I don't know, but the long answer is there's a bunch of interesting possibilities, I guess.
Next time we have you on, John, have that sewed up for us, if you don't mind. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll figure that out.
So, I don't want this to come off like I'm trying to stir a drink that doesn't need to be stirred. Matter of fact, I like my drinks on the rocks anyways. But, Tyson Pumachan is he is a hell of a quarterback. This is his third year in the program. Yes, he's at Clemson, one of the probably right now top 2 programs in college football, top 3 to some. But DJ Uiagalelei is in his second year in the program, and he's got another one coming up after this, at least, but more than likely just that third year. Have you ever even heard a whisper about Pumachan? I get it. He's been hurt. He's been recovering. Like, if you're going to get hurt and leave to go somewhere, you could leave and go somewhere else. No, he's recovered and wanted to stick it out with Clemson. But, I mean, he's been behind some talented dudes the last couple of years, kind of waiting his time. Do you know how long he's willing to wait to play?
Yeah, just being a new guy, I haven't heard too many whispers myself. Not too many people are whispering to me yet. But but I would say, the situation I would talk about is actually where I came from at IU. IU football obviously is a different beast compared to Clemson. But their backup quarterback there is a guy named Jack Tuttle, who's a former Elite 11 quarterback. I mean, one of the top football recruits in the country the year he came out. It was the same year as Michael Penix Jr., their starting quarterback. And he went to Utah, didn't work out there, ends up at IU. He has been behind Michael Penix Jr. this entire time, has not gone anywhere. And Tom Allen, the head coach there, has commented so many times on how rare that is. That you just don't see that anymore. That guys don't do this. But I've seen it at least once, with Jack Tuttle, in terms of just sticking it out for 2 years behind Michael Penix Jr. Penix has been a guy who's been hurt constantly up at IU, and he actually had to come into a game at Wisconsin and help them win on the road last year, which helps them get to the Outback Bowl. So Tyson Pumachan, I don't know him well enough yet, and again, I haven't heard a lot of whispers or anything, but he may be of the same, ilk, just wants to, work as hard as he can, be in that situation and ready to go if something were to happen to DJ, because things do happen to quarterbacks. You need to have more than one good one, one really, highly talented quarterback nowadays, because something could always happen. And I mean, you never know. And that's the transfer portal too. Obviously that does benefit these quarterbacks who go to a program like Clemson. You try it out, you compete, you see what happens, and then maybe you do go transfer somewhere else. You got that immediate eligibility somewhere else eventually to showcase yourself a little bit if you do have dreams of going to the NFL. But that's a hard one. I haven't talked to Tyson enough myself to know, but it's not like it's never happened where a really good quarterback, really talented guy hasn't waited his turn to see what happens. So maybe that's the case with Tyson.
I figured out why you left covering Indiana and came down here, because you're a Penn State grad who had to cover Penix diving in on the 2-point conversion, and that was it. That was the final straw, right?
No, it's actually kind of funny. There's been a lot of Penn State guys who have covered IU football and IU athletics up there.
Mm-hmm.
There's Chris Corman, Dustin Dopirak, and then me. And Chronic Hoosier, who's actually one of the kind of talking heads up there, one of the personalities up there, said that it was actually called the Chris Corman curse, which is that Penn Stater will always cover IU until IU beats Penn State. And so obviously IU beat Penn State, and then Chronic Hoosier was saying the curse has been lifted. Now the Penn Staters can leave and stop covering IU. But no, I actually really, really enjoyed it up there. I'm one of those guys who was on the student newspaper at Penn State. And so, the relentlessly objective, idealistic student who believes, he's not a fan and all of that. So I never got all that attached to Penn State itself. It's where I went to school. I love it. But I did not care when Mike Penix went in and dove in and won. It actually made my job a hell of a lot easier. It's very interesting game when beat them in double overtime, and obviously when had the season they had, which was great. But it's been interesting covering the Big Ten. Obviously Penn State has got some work to do, I think.
I've said many times that we can leave the Penix thing here. I think he was in. I thought it was the right call, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 50-50. You would need like a microscope to be on the field with like a magnifying glass to really tell if you touched that thing before anything else went down.
One day they might have those in football. Who knows? John, everybody's talking about Will Shipley, and we get it. He's impressive. He's young. He's going to play. He's going to be really good. Another one for Clemson. But we're stationed out of the low country, South Carolina, so we want to know how Mikey Dukes is doing, the former First Baptist Hurricane up there trying to make plays for the Tigers. What have you heard about Mikey Dukes and his role with this offense?
Well, he, from what I heard, he's actually been out of practice a little bit. He's been a little limited. I think he just got back last week. I think he was dealing with an injury. But Dabo did his whole rundown of the running backs, and I think everybody wants to just kind of center on Will Shipley, Lynn-J Dixon, Kobe Pace. That seems to kind of be the trio that's at the top of the leaderboard there. But he was saying, don't count out people like Darian Retcher or Michael Dukes, and obviously there's Phil Maffa, the other freshman. There's a chance, he could kind of slide in there and kind of steal away some carries. I mean, again, we're not there watching practice every day, and who knows over the next week or 2 weeks he can kind of make a run. But yeah, no, it's a deep running back room. I just don't know kind of how many guys can get carries and who's going to kind of emerge there, because like you said, Will Shipley, 5-star recruit, guy who everybody's been raving about in every single way, mostly just about his work ethic and the fact that he doesn't even seem like a freshman in terms of how hard he goes. And then you got Lynn-J Dixon, this guy who's got over 1,200 career yards already in college, and then Kobe Pace. I think Tony Elliott said, don't count out 20. He's got a lot of talent too. So I don't know. Mikey Dukes, like you're saying, I'm not sure, but he's obviously in that mix because somebody's got to help kind of fill the vacuum of Travis Etienne, and that could take a lot of guys, or it could take one guy, depending on who kind of emerges. But as one of those question marks that we're kind of waiting to see answered before we get to Georgia or on game day, possibly. We'll see.
John, one final one before we let you run, my friend. On the other side of the football, Xavier Thomas, obviously last year, a bunch of storylines around him as to why he was out to start the season, some COVID-related stuff going on, and there was even some rumors and whispers of some other things. But all signs thus far have pointed to Xavier Thomas, the former 5-star, one of the best high school players in the country, coveted young man. All signs point to him being pretty ready to go and in shape and all the things that you want to hear, basically. What have you seen? What have you heard about Xavier Thomas?
Yeah, like you said, I think Dabo said that at one point Xavier Thomas is at 294 pounds, which for a defensive end is not the number you want to be at. Obviously, COVID kind of took his body for a loop, I think, and he did not have the best year he possibly could have last year. But they said he's lost 30 pounds, so he's down to 264, which is, the perfect, type of fitness level you want for a guy like him, an edge rusher. And everybody's been raving about him. Him, and I would say him and Justin Foster are two of the more interesting guys in that defensive line, because, again, I went through the list earlier, but, Justin Maskell, KJ Henry, and obviously the guys at defensive tackle, Brian Brzee and Tyler Davis. There's a ton of guys across that defensive line. But if you got Xavier Thomas kind of being the really dynamic, athletic edge rusher he can be, plus you have Justin Foster, who, retired, quote unquote, at one point, also had COVID issues and unretired. Supposedly he's got really heavy hands, can really move guys. And you add those two guys to that defensive line, it could really spell trouble for a lot of opposing offenses. So no, Xavier Thomas is one of those guys where everything's been incredibly positive as well. Like you said at the beginning, things have been very positive in Clemson camp. Whether, it stays that way after week 1 against Georgia, we have no idea. But right now they're feeling pretty good about a lot of guys. I would say Xavier Thomas is definitely one of them.
John Blau, Post and Courier 128 on this Thursday afternoon. Hey, man, look, thank you so much. Great job. Really enjoyed having you on today. We will certainly get you rescheduled here shortly as we kind of gear up and grind towards football season. And that big one up there in Charlotte on Saturday, September the 4th. It's going to be a dandy, and we'd love to get your thoughts on that ball game and what it means and all those type things here before long. But I tell you what we'll do. We'll wait until there's things like depth charts out to be able to talk a little bit more. Right now, we're all speculating. Let's wait and see what the coaches say. Hey, look, this is probably what it's going to look like, and then we can all do these things again. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. There you go. John Blau again with the Post and Courier. All right, it is time for our final time out of the afternoon. When we return to the skies will go. Oh, no, I think he landed. He did land, actually, as a matter of fact. Mike Uva went skydiving for his birthday. Luckily, he came back to earth, and he's still covering Gamecock football. Clayton White and Marcus Satterfield both met with the media today, and I've got some interesting notes to pass on from that press conference. We'll talk about those and about his fall from wherever the hell he fell from.
The sky.
Yeah, but that's... I mean, like, what part of the sky? What layer? The stratosphere? Did he see some aliens while he was up there? He run into a UFO?
Probably about 10,000 feet. We'll go back and forth. We can share stories.
Have you skydived?
Yeah.
Skydived? Is it skydived?
I don't know. Dove, dived, but yeah, I did.
God, what is wrong with y'all?
It was awesome. I've been bungee jumping a bunch of times too. I won't do that again.
I'm Ben Stiller and along came Polly. Don't eat the nuts. You know how many hands have been on those nuts? All right, we'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
So thank you, my dear friend, Mr. Patrick Davis. 1:33 on this Thursday afternoon. I'm back, JB, with a couple of doofuses who think that when you go in a plane, you have to jump the hell out of it. That's right. What's wrong with you two?
By the way, that bump was called high feeling because I'm smart like that.
Because you're high?
No, you're in the air if you're jumping out of a plane. But
I was about to say, wait a second. Hey, this is a drug-free show. You know that, right? All right. So tell us, Mr. Birthday Boy. You and Darren, y'all go ahead. Don't worry about what Clayton White said today or what Marcus Satterfield said today.
Hey,
y'all just tell me all about hopping out of airplanes.
No, look, I'm off. All right, I'm getting ready. I got my donkeys over here. We're ready to go. Going down the river in a little bit. I'm off. Okay.
Oh God,
nothing exists today until 7 o'clock. Until Carolina calls tonight because it's up to get a drink with Kirk Collinsworth. But I'm off the clock until then.
All right, so where you see that look, that's the thing. People are like, would you rather, God, what I say? I'm scared of flying or something. They're like, why are you scared of flying? Do you go offshore fishing? Well, yeah. Well, what if the boat sinks? I'm like, well, I know how to swim. I don't know how to fly. But per what you said there, so where are you starting on the river? Are you going to the zoo, or are you starting? Where are you starting?
Yeah. So I mean, I live right next to the zoo. So usually what I'll do is I'll drive down with someone to around Black Rooster, around that end point. We'll drop a car off there. We'll hop back in my car, come up to the top, float down for about 2.5, 3 hours, get the car, then drive back up, and then shoot back over to my place. So it's pretty easy, except for I remember one time, I had a one-on-one with Muschamp a year ago, actually for that George Rogers event, and the one person I went down the river with, I was gonna freaking kill her. She left the keys in my car. So when we got to the end, I'm looking at my watch. First off, we're just, because I didn't have a paddle. That was a rookie move on my part. I was a rookie last year. So I'm trying to swim as fast as I can to the end. And we get to the end. She's like, oh, boy, I left the keys in your car. And I'm just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Well, I had my keys. But, so that was a fun day. But Will Muschamp, being the good guy, regardless of what people say about him, he was very nice about it, you know. Yeah, that is one of those stories I'll always remember. Gotta make sure. Point being is, if you go down, make sure you have both sets of keys. It's not going to do you any good if the car that you're going to drive at the end, the keys are still in the car at the top.
So you were floating to the Rosewood boat landing. You're floating to the
pretty
Rosewood
much.
boat landing, right? Okay, all right. So my question is, who floats the river and then can get off the raft and drive? That's not the point of floating the river. The point of floating the river is to have somebody pick you up, because driving is probably not an option.
I'm not the one driving. I'll say that. I mean, probably a couple months ago, I fell off a raft, and it had nothing to do with how rocky the waters were.
Yeah, of course.
Big wind gust. So, but no, I mean, you always have a designated driver. Please drink responsibly.
How long does it take to float down that river? I've never done it. I know people do it.
As long as you want it to.
Well, I mean, if you bring a paddle, that obviously can speed things up a little bit. But what it comes down to is, especially these last couple of days with all the rain that we've got, the more rain, the higher it is, it'll speed up the process a little bit. But, anywhere between 2.5 to 3. I mean, that day with Muschamp, that was under 2 hours. I mean, shoot, I was like Michael Phelps, but on a tube that day, trying to just go down that river to get my ass over to Williams Bryce.
Yeah, or you stop. Like, I don't know if you ever stop at that big rock, but we used to stop and sit there for
unbelievable
2-3 hours. Yeah,
people do that. I mean, especially 4th of July, they'll bring. I mean, 4th of July. People have, like, it looks like tailgates. They have the little grills, and the grills that are like 2 feet tall. And they're just grilling out on the rocks. I'm just like, wow, I can't believe it took me until last year to find out about all this.
Yeah, oh yeah, man. But it's great. It's a great float. Great float. And there was a time when they stopped letting some people do it because there were idiots going out there and leaving beer cans all over. I mean, come on, man, clean up your mess. You're ruining it for the rest of us. We want to get drunk, float on the river too, and we did.
Exactly.
So congratulations. It's no shocker that you're going to magically be floating the river the first day that classes are back. I don't blame you. You fell out of a plane. Did you jump or did you fall out?
So
you jumped
up. It's tandem. So, I'm hooked up to someone. What made things worse was this. I absolutely hate heights. Cannot stand heights, which makes absolutely no sense why I'm doing this, right? We get to the edge of the plane, okay? And the guy that I'm hooked up to, he's trying to look out for me, because the harness, I guess, was too tight around my south region. So he was afraid that my Bowberry biscuits would get squished a little bit. So he's trying to loosen me up just a little bit, right? The problem is this. When you get up there, it's just like, boom, you jump right out. Because of that, I am just at the edge, and I have no idea. Every second feels like minutes, and I'm just standing there. I'm like this. You've got to be kidding me. You got to be freaking kidding me. And in the class, right, they teach you maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes of what to do and this and that, which, a majority of that class, they really don't teach you what to do. It's basically like a 10-minute video basically saying, if you die today, that's on you.
Sorry.
You know, your family can't sue. I love how it says you can't sue. Well, if I'm dead, yeah, I can't sue, you know. Appreciate you throwing that in there. So, but you're on the edge, and they tell you in the classroom, we're going to say, ready, set, go. They didn't say anything. They just go flying out. You're free falling for about a minute, and then at the end, the parachute goes up, and you're just kind of gliding, you know, 4 to 5 minutes until you go to the ground, and it was incredible.
Well,
they do a great job, though. People up in Chester do an awesome job. Highly recommend it.
I think I told you the last time you were on, maybe, I don't remember. But the only scary part is that part, is like getting to the edge.
Oh
my God. Now I'm supposed, and then the plane just disappears. As soon as you fall, the plane disappears.
That half second, and I wasn't great at math. I always tell people it took me 4 years to pass elementary functions in college. That half second when you jump out is the most terrifying feeling of your life. And then you start free falling. You don't have that roller coaster feeling. You don't have that like waking up in the bed, kind of like, oh, I'm falling feeling. It's very bliss. It's a feeling unlike any other. I definitely want to go back and do it again. I'd like to do it somewhere else. No disrespect to the lovely folks at Chester, but I'd love to go kind of to a tropical area. But highly recommend doing it. And if you're afraid of heights, it's not that bad until you get down to the last couple 100 yards. Because like I said, when you're just gliding, you can't really, you start to see the ground. At that point, I'm like, just get me the hell on the ground. All right, I can't do this anymore. That's awesome. You can't see the ground at that point.
So it's scary before you jump out of the plane. It's scary when you're going to land. Why the hell would I want to do this? This is the only scary, non-scary part.
And I did this sober, okay?
Yeah, y'all got mental problems.
I was in Australia, so I don't remember if sobriety was a part of it. But it was tropical, and it was very nice.
That's awesome. That's the only time you've done it, Darren?
In Australia, yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
JB, tell you what, you come along, we'll get you hooked up. Be good.
I like the water.
Jay Phillips might do it, so.
Oh, well, if Jay does it, then I'll probably still not do it. But if Beamer does it, I'll do it because I know that he feels totally safe.
Oh, he was talking about it with me maybe 2 weeks ago at media.
Has Shane done it? He hadn't done it.
No, he said he would definitely not do it.
Yeah, dude, us Southern folk, no thanks. Well, the guys in Chester, the reason they know how to do all this, that's how they get their meth in up there. They just drop that out of airplanes.
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. I'll tell you, the crazy thing, the guy that was hooked up to me, this is the crazy part. And I don't know too much about the guy. And, I think we started to follow each other on social media. So, no, my luck, he's going to see this and take it as an insult. And I'm going to get like a, Billy Madison style, just some dog poop on my doorstep. You can call the crap poop or whatever. The point being is this guy a couple years prior, he was running for governor in Georgia. Now he's got long hair, got beard, tattoos everywhere. He's jumping out of planes. So that's
That's what happens when you don't make it in politics, man. Tat yourself up and hop out of a plane and see what happens.
You're going to see Henry McMaster just jumping out of planes. He's going to grow a beard looking like Duck Dynasty in 5 years if this thing doesn't work out with him in South Carolina.
That's right. That's right. Oh, God. Well, good story. Cool story, Hansel. That is I'm glad you had a good time. Happy 23rd birthday.
Oh, appreciate it. Well, we'll go with that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's do you want to talk some Carolina football?
Oh, let's do it. I'm fired up.
I bet some other people are excited about this too. So, latest news: Gamecocks going to start a grad assistant at quarterback. Shane Beamer's son is a now walk-on wide receiver. They've got Clayton White. His daughter is going to play linebacker. I'm just kidding. Some interesting stuff today, actually, from Marcus Satterfield. Asked if Zeb Norland is a guy who they feel like could actually play, and he said it's potentially there. And the reason that he said that is because he said, well, he knows the playbook, because he helped write it. Mm-hmm. He was the guy who was in there, helping kind of come up with a lot of this stuff as a GA and literally typing the playbook up. And so, I don't think that should make Gamecock fans feel any better, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that if Carolina fans are concerned about this, they have every right to be, especially with Luke Doty out. I think it also, to be honest with you, Mike, tells everybody how far ahead Luke Doty was. Luke Doty's the starting quarterback at South Carolina, and it wasn't close. But your thoughts on that? You've been around. I know you're off today, but I mean, you've been around this every single day. You hear things, evaluate that quarterback room.
Well, let's go back a little bit to Zeb Nolan, because I think a lot of people are trying to scramble around, including ourselves in the media, trying to figure out who this guy is. I was fortunate enough back at the Birdies for Beamer, I was paired up with him. It was me, new offensive line coach, Greg Atkins, Tim Hill from 107.5, and then Zeb Nolan. And before that day, I had no idea, who this guy was. And that's no disrespect. I mean, I'm sure he didn't know me from a bucket of paint. So, we were able to golf with each other and be able to, get to know each other for about 3.5, 4 hours. And what I picked up from this guy was he is someone that is extremely, extremely respected by those players in that locker room. I mean, being able to talk to some of the people, because when I posted the photo that I golfed with him, some of the players, some of the people that are close with that program said, Zeb's the man, blah, blah, blah. And he had only been in that locker room, around that program since June. So what's that tell you? I mean, that's just within a month. And people were starting to gravitate to this man. And no one expected that he'd be suiting up. I mean, shoot, not even him. So, at that point, I went back. I watched some footage on him because I'm like, oh, he played quarterback at North Dakota State. Obviously he was behind Trey Lance for most of that time period and, had an opportunity to play a little bit more this past spring. But I was like, this guy he can throw the ball. It's, it's pretty cool. Now this happens. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But what I can tell people about Zeb is that he is a guy that has zero, and I mean zero ego. He's a guy that wants to help this team in any shape, way, or form. And this is just a true reflection of that the fact that he's moving from being a grad assistant to throwing on the pads. I don't know what he did necessarily this offseason. I know, and this isn't, to embarrass anyone because, as a coach, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can do whatever the hell you want as a player. But, I mean, shoot, him and I ran into each other at a bar a couple of days before training camp even started. You think he was thinking that he was going to be lacing him up, putting a helmet on? But, he is a guy that I think the players have the utmost respect for. And if he goes out there and proves that he deserves to be out there, I think they'll support him. As far as Jason Brown goes, as far as Colton Gauthier goes, and, we'll even throw Corner Jordan in there. I think what it comes down to is, yes, that gap between those guys and Doty was much larger than I think a lot of people believed after the spring football game. And that's no disrespect against Jason Brown, but, it's a spring football game, number one. Number two, it's third team's going up against third team defense. I mean, that's not to say Jason couldn't play in the SEC as a quarterback. That's not saying that, but I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. Plus, Doty wasn't able to run the football at all. They didn't want him to. They wanted to make him one-dimensional in the spring game. They took that element out of him. I mean, imagine telling Johnny Manziel, you can only be a pocket passer. I mean, really. So people were starting to lose their mind, saying Jason Brown should be the starter, this and that. It's just like, relax. So I say all that. I know I'm rambling at this point, but the point being is that gap was much larger. And now it's going to come down between Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier. And that race is much closer than some people believe because naturally they look at the stats that Brown had over at St. Francis. He's got the experience. But the thing about Gauthier is the dude can freaking sling it. He can sling it. And the thing about freshmen are once they're able to figure out, it's just like picking up a language. Once they're able to figure out that pattern in terms of figuring out the terminology, figuring out what they're looking at, this kid could be very, very special. And regardless if he starts here down the road or whatnot, you need to be able to have a viable backup quarterback behind Doty. And Gauthier is a guy that I could truly believe seeing out there. But I think this competition between him and Brown is going to come down to the wire.
So you think that because look, here's full disclosure. A lot of what I've heard the last 24 hours is you might want to circle that Georgia game for Luke Doty. Mm-hmm. If he's back sooner, that's great, but might want to go ahead and circle that Georgia game as kind of a target date for him to be back, which would certainly be a tough game for him to just walk right back into. But so let's say he's not back for week one, or for that matter, week two. You believe, based on your conversations, based on what you know, that so Zeb Nolan Zeb Noland is on the field. Connor Jordan is on the field. Kerryon Joyner's getting all of 3% of time at QB. He is not a QB. Let's clarify this for everybody. He's a wide receiver. You believe that this competition right now to start game one is between Colton Gauthier and Jason Brown?
Correct. And depending on how the second scrimmage goes, I mean, if Neb goes out there and he's able to sling the rock, I mean, Brown, from everything that we were told, and obviously, you know, it was closed off to the media. Some selective people were able to go, and, you know, that's kind of how you pick their brains a little bit in terms of what they saw. If Neb's able to go out there and play well, Colton, Jason, they both had some turnovers last week. The defense had a really, really good performance. Yeah. And that's not a surprise. I mean, especially at this point of training camp, the defense is usually ahead of the offense. I mean, that's not a surprise. I will say this. Carlin Splatell, the transfer defensive back from Assumption, had a huge, huge hit, forced the fumble, and now he's been going from playing nickel to a true outside corner spot with the twos, and seeing how thin that position is, just keep an eye on that. That kid's doing very, very well, and I know that's a position a lot of people have question marks about. But I think this weekend we will be able to see that separation. That second scrimmage is usually that time period where things start to separate. And coaches might say, well, you know, we're still evaluating. That's true to an extent, and every coach is different. But that second scrimmage, you're really able to start figuring out what that depth chart's looking like. Colton Gauthier mentioned just the other day that there's no set depth chart right now, that they're all rotating. Even Connor Jordan with the ones, the twos, the threes, they're all rotating with each other. And I think that's not unusual. That happens throughout the entire country when you're going through a quarterback competition. But I think especially now, if Zeb's able to go out there, Brown and Gauthier just, you know, they're just not on it. How can't you give this young man an opportunity to be able to go out there and sling the rock if you believe he can do it? And on top of that, you just don't know how quickly Doty's going to heal. I mean, that's the thing. Everyone's different. And I brought this up because everyone started freaking out about the initial diagnosis. And I'll say this. I put that out there. Gamecock Central put that out there.
It is one source. Big Spur did the same thing.
Yep.
The
reason I mention that is we don't know how quickly Doty is going to actually be able to come back. And I think back to 2011, and you guys would know this better than me. 2011, around April 25th, April 26th, a guy by the name of Ray Tanner, who has a lot of credibility when it comes to baseball, he came out and said that it is very unlikely that Jackie Bradley Jr. will ever play a game as a Gamecock again after injuring that left wrist. What happened 2 months later? Jackie was back out on the field, and the Gamecocks won another College World Series. The point being is this. Every player heals differently. We don't know how quickly Doty's going to be able to get back on the field. If he's able to before the Georgia game, great. If he's not, could it be a little bit longer? Absolutely. Because those foot injuries, they all heal differently, and everyone's body's different. So I think people need to keep that in mind when they do start hearing the rumbles of a potential timeline.
Well, and I think also, though, as part of this conversation, and you do know this very well, and this isn't taking a shot at him at all, but it's just true. Carolina fans have PTSD, Mike. Yep. I mean, for 5 years, we'd hear things like, oh, he's fine. He'll be back in a week or so. And then a week later, well, he's out for the season. You know, I mean, you know how it was. The injury reports under Coach Muschamp were quite blurry and never right, ever, even when we got him, really. And that was probably one of the more frustrating things I know for somebody like you who's covering the team every day as a member of the media. I have a question about Zeb Noland. I'm just, this isn't, again, like I understand why he's there, and this isn't, I'm not doing anything more. I'm just asking. Trey Lance is in the NFL, right?
Yep.
Why did he leave North Dakota State?
Graduated.
So, but he just didn't want to play football anymore?
He was ready to move on. He was a guy that had more opportunities to play at the beginning of the year. And then once he lost the starting job, they moved on from him. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I've done a deep, deep, deep analysis of why he didn't start. I think naturally what you think of is, all right, you know, he was just being outperformed. But the reality is, especially when it comes to the spring football season, you talk to different coaches, especially at the FCS level, you know, they look forward sometimes to that next season. They look to see, like, all right, you know, what are we doing now? North Dakota State, we know they're a powerhouse. I mean, they're the friggin' Alabama of FCS football. They've been the standard in that division, in that league for so many years right now. but that plays a part of it, and everyone has reasons why they want to move on from the game. I think with Zeb, and I haven't had these conversations with him, but he was ready to get into coaching, and he really, really, really enjoyed it. From being able to talk with him that day when at the golf outing, almost a month ago now, that he was ready to move on to the next chapter of his life. And the same time too, between his experience at North Dakota State and his experience at Iowa State, he is a guy that understands the ins and outs when it comes to the X's and O's. He understands the landscape in terms of what he's reading. Gauthier was just mentioning the other day, he's not used to seeing 3 high safeties. I mean, this is a guy that has seen it all. And, people talk about Tom Brady, why he's so good. Well, he's seen every freaking look out there. Experience is the greatest key to success when you play college football, especially at that quarterback position. And I think regardless if Zeb's on the field or Zeb's on the sideline, helping out a guy like Luke Doty, helping out a guy like Jason Brown, Connor Jordan, Colton Gauthier, he's going to be able to help those guys in terms of being able to explain what they're seeing because he's actually going out there and doing it himself.
Per Marcus Satterfield today, when asked who's number one, quote, "We don't have a number one." Well, when would you like to have one, Coach? ASAP. That's what he said in his press conference. Also asked about the wide receivers. He's per Marcus Satterfield, they have 6 or 7 that they're ready to go with. He said you need 5. He would feel very good about 5. He said we've got 6 or 7. That's including E.J. Jenkins, and he raved about Josh Vann. He said he's a young man that from the spring to now, it's night and day. This is a strange conversation to have, Mike. We really need to have this conversation next week. Let them get another scrimmage under their belt and let's see what it looks like. But you almost can feel that there might be more concern now about the quarterback position than the wide receiver position. And if you'd asked anybody prior to the last couple of days, what are you most worried about? Oh, wide receivers and defensive backs. And now it's like, well, the wide receivers, they might be in pretty good shape, but who's going to throw it to them?
I know this doesn't necessarily make a difference in terms of wins and losses, but this is how concerning it was that day when the Doty news came out on Saturday before Beamer came out and explained what, the final diagnosis was, or at least the updated diagnosis, because obviously things can continue to change as that swelling goes down, and it's in a hard cast right now. Vegas took the win-loss, the over-under for wins for South Carolina off the board instantly on Saturday, because there's some Gamecocks out in Vegas. They reached out. They said, they just took that off the board. That's how concerning it can be, especially when you play that quarterback position. So I think with South Carolina, and that's the other thing too, whether it's the Georgia game, whether it's week 4, when Doty, if Doty is able to come back, what does that look like? Because just because he's back doesn't mean he's going to be the same Doty, especially this season. And how long can that take? Now, it's not the same injury, but I remember having this conversation 2 weeks ago at USC's Media Day, and I asked Nick Muse point blank, when did you feel like you were back? Because obviously the year prior he tore his ACL, and he said last year, it probably took until the Missouri game to feel like he was himself again. So with that foot injury, as athletes, naturally, especially a lower body injury, you compensate for that injury when you're out on the field. You're thinking about it. And when you're playing quarterback, that can be scary. And I'm not saying that was the issue for Colin Hill, but a guy that's had, a million torn ACLs, that's very difficult to not think about. I don't care how mentally tough you are. That's tough. So for Doty, he's a mentally tough guy, but how is that going to look when he does come back? Is his game going to change up a little bit? Probably will a little bit. I'm not saying for the long term, but especially when he comes back short term wise. So I think you need to keep that in consideration. I think if you're Marcus Satterfield, you need to be able to realize, hey, even if Doty comes back, that huge element of his game, which is being able to get outside the pocket, it might not look the same. And I think with the experience that Satterfield has, he's going to be able to put him in the best position to succeed. And I think what it's going to come down to, which we all expected anyway, is to just try to run the football down opponents' throats. The only downside about that is if you fall behind quickly, you're going to have to throw the football. And what does that look like if Doty is just a true pocket passer if he's not able to get to the outside when he does come back?
Mike, I think it's safe to say this: scrimmage number 2 on Saturday. There's no point in asking any media member or anybody that is involved at the University of South Carolina with their football program. What are we paying attention to this week? Quarterback. Period. The end. By the way, give John Del Bianco some credit. He's got an update on Luke Doty at thebigspur.com, so we'll pass that along to our friends. We want to check that out. I will say coincides with a little nugget I passed along today too. Credit. I'm just kidding, JDB. We'll call JC and get him on this. All these JCs, JBs, what the hell's wrong with these people? All right, got to give some credit to Steve Fink here for his back streets back. All right, that was good.
Finkster's good. The Finkster's good. And JB, I want to mention this too because I know some people may have missed it. I know some people out there are like, oh, why, people getting excited for, and I'm not picking on, our buddy Tim Frisbee here, but I know some people, why are people getting so excited for a grad assistant going in at quarterback and there was no excitement to carry on Joyner. Joyner said point blank on Tuesday, I bring more to the table and help this team at receiver than I do quarterback. Yeah, that is coming from the man himself. So look, Joyner, whether it's Wildcat, whatever, that's great. I agree with him. I think he brings more to the table regardless of the situation. I mean, shoot, you could bring a 5 points quarterback in there. What a great quote the other day from Beamer.
There's a lot of quarterbacks in 5 points. Have you ever noticed that?
Well, I mean, Tannehill's right behind group therapy, and Garcia will probably be down here in a week or two.
Oh, I'm not even talking about those guys. I'm just talking about all the regular dudes that think they're quarterbacks, that tell you that they are, and that they're
the Al Bundys of the world after a couple drinks.
A lot of head coaches in 5 points. Found a lot of them over my time. Tons of them.
A lot of them have eligibility left. They may have graduated also, but might have eligibility.
A lot of them have eligibility all the way from Pee Wee football because they never played a snap in their damn lives. We try to stay away from those. But back streets back. All right, tonight at 7:00.
We'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be right. So, are you going to the big GCC blowout tomorrow?
I wish. It's the 7th season of Sonic Friday Night Rivals for Watch Fox, and I'm honored to be able to do color commentating again. It's something that I obviously enjoy with that college background of mine, so I can get to talk about X's and O's to a point where people might actually listen, because I'm not going to be able to talk X's and O's for the SEC, because people are going to be like, that's great, pal. You play D2 ball. Unless Carlos Patel balls out, and then it brings me a little credibility.
No, we need to get you on the SEC network with the shooter. The shooter. What's his name? What's his damn name? They call him Shooter. He's always with Mike Morgan on the basketball broadcast.
I know who you're talking about. I mean,
Shooter. He lives up in Boston.
John something, I believe.
No, not John.
I know you're talking about. He's actually an Everett, Mass guy. Everett, Mass is the same city that Nerlens Noel grew up in.
Oh. Yep. Back streets back. All right. Well, get them all fired up. They're going to be in the cockpit in a couple of weeks, Mike.
Can't wait.
Hey,
people are going to be cocked in the cockpit.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be ready to go.
There's going to be a lot of cocks in the cockpit, man.
It's going
to be awesome. Beamer's going to be that's going to be a good crowd tonight for that. People are going to be fired up.
I'll say this, and this is not trying to pick on. Shoot, it could be at home team, for crying out loud. But Backstreet Grill, if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't gone, it is a little bit tinier than home team. So I highly, highly recommend getting your asses down there early, because if you show up at the last minute, I don't know what their restrictions are with the number of people inside and fire marshals. I mean, that's way above my knowledge. But get your butts there quick, because those seats will go quickly. I know Kirk Collinsworth, he's probably been camping out in a tent there since 6 a.m. yesterday. So good luck trying to get past Kirk in line.
I miss the old days at Wild Wings, back when Wild Wings was the jam in the Vista.
It's a good spot. Well, the size of it helps out. But like you mentioned, I went to the one when they did one in the spring. They mixed one up and they threw one in the spring for Beamer. That place at home team was absolutely packed. So, Muschamp had a pretty good crowd last year. I expect that to be even bigger tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So, get down there right after I get off the river. My butt's going right over there, because I know it's going to be a long line.
We used to go sit down there with Coach Spurrier at Wild Wings. He'd walk in. Well, appreciate all the Gamecocks being out here tonight and this, that, and the other. Got a pretty big game this weekend. Hopefully we can find a way to beat these guys. Pretty good club they got there. But pretty bad week of practice for us. This, that, and the other. You just keep drinking.
Well, at least he was talking to you. I saw him at that South Carolina Hall of Fame event after I golfed with him like a week prior. He said, "How you doing, Steve?" I said, "Good golf outing last week." He's like, "What?" I said, "We golfed together." Waved his hand and just kept walking. I'm like, "All right, big gulps. See you later."
That's all right.
He didn't care. He's like, get out of here, pal.
Yeah. You're from the F troop. Yeah, this, that, and the other. Yeah, he's something else. He is something else. There's no question. Mikey, we're glad you made it to the ground.
Appreciate it. I pulled up the grass and kissed it. I didn't do a less miles and eat it, but I kissed it when I got down to the ground. So I was happy to get back on the ground.
Careful eating that grass up there in Chester. You never know what's in it. Hey, man, have fun tonight. I know that it's Todd is going to be there, right? Derek's not hosting.
That's what I'm told. And the reason I say that's what I'm told is because, you never know with different things. I'm not saying with COVID, but you never know. Things could change. With COVID tracing protocols last year changed up. Derek Scott filled in occasionally. So, but I'm anticipating Todd to be there tonight. Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. We look forward to it. We'll have you back here shortly, and then before you know it, it'll be football season. Everybody be bitching at everybody about everything else. So look forward to that too.
I can't wait. It's my favorite time of the year.
See you, Mike.
Take care, guys.
There you go, Mike. You've taken us into overtime on the JB and Goldwater show, but we are all but out of time. Speaking of jumping out of airplanes, it's National Aviation Day.
Hey, isn't that just perfect?
So congratulations to Darren and Mike for making it from the skies to land. It's also National Soft Serve Ice Cream Day. I'm all in. All in, baby. I could do soft serve ice cream every day for the rest of my life. And it's National Potato Day, and we all love potatoes.
Sure.
In any way, shape, or form, we love potatoes.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to Mike Uva, John Blau, David Shelton, Darren Goldwater, and all of you that watch and listen to our program every day. It means a lot to us, and we know there's thousands of you out there. It really, really, really means a lot. We're going to be back tomorrow. Mike Flint tomorrow, Rafael Esparza tomorrow. We'll figure out what else we can ruffle up, and then into the weekend we go. Also, high school football tomorrow. Excited about that. For Darren, I'm Jamie. Have a thirsty Thursday afternoon at the Dog and Duck, and we'll see you tomorrow.